If you look at a map of Canada, you're not seeing the truth. You're seeing a landscape that hasn't finished being born. Most of this country is a terrain system so extreme, it doesn't even feel like Earth. From asteroid impacts hidden in plain sight to mountains of lava buried in the forest, today, we're hunting the 13 facts that prove Canada is actually another planet. There's a place in Canada that NASA uses to simulate Mars. We'll get there. It's the reason why this entire continent is literally hollowed out by water. Start with the one that sets the tone. Canada has around 2 million lakes, more than any other country by most counts. And if you fly over huge parts of the Canadian Shield, you realize something fast. This isn't land with water. It's water stitched into rock. Lakes everywhere, black, cold, still, filling old scars in ancient stone. Because when the last ice age pulled back, it didn't leave a smooth surface, it left dents, millions of them. And then meltwater moved in. So from above, the terrain looks like stone lace. Blue poured into cracks in a continent. That's not scenery. That's a geological fingerprint. Now widen the lens. Canada's coastline is the longest on the planet, about 243,000 kilometers when you count the mainland and the islands. And this isn't a clean edge. It's a broken edge. Fjords, channels, inlets, bays inside bays, coastline that behaves like a maze. A border usually feels like a line. Here it feels like a system, like a fracture zone where land and ocean can't fully separate. So Canada looks like empty space on a map until you zoom in. And then the terrain explodes into detail. Now go north, where the atmosphere becomes part of the landscape. In Churchill, Manitoba, aurora activity is often sighted on over 300 nights per year. And aurora isn't just pretty lights. It's the planet's magnetic field made visible. Solar particles colliding with the upper atmosphere, turning the sky into moving curtains. This is where you slow down. You hear wind. You hear snow under a boot. And then the sky starts to move like the world is breathing above you. Now, drop from sky to water, with one of the most violent daily transformations on Earth. In the Bay of Fundy, the difference between high tide and low tide can reach around 16 meters, about a 5-story building moving twice a day. At low tide, you can walk where the ocean was. Hours later, that same ground is gone, under a wall of returning water. This isn't just big tides. It's geometry. The bay's shape amplifies the tide like a perfectly timed push on a swing, over and over, every day. The coastline isn't just a location here, it's an engine. Here's the twist people don't expect. In southern British Columbia, around Osoyoos, you hit a semi-arid desert ecosystem. Hot summers, low rainfall, sagebrush, sandy hills, cactus. And what makes it terrain wild is the compression. Because within a relatively short distance, BC can flip from semi-arid hills to rainforest, to glaciers, to alpine meadows, to ocean. Canada isn't one landscape, it's extremes packed into one frame. Now go underfoot. A huge portion of Canada sits over permafrost, ground that stays frozen year after year. In some mapping definitions, it underlies about half the country's land surface. And permafrost isn't empty. It can preserve plant material, animals, Ice Age remains, a frozen archive, locked for thousands of years. But here's the tension. As the climate warms, the archive starts to open. And when frozen ground stops being frozen, the terrain changes shape. It slumps, it cracks, it collapses. This isn't abstract. This is land literally losing its structure. Time for a map riddle. In Lake Huron sits Manitoulin Island, the largest freshwater island in the world. On Manitoulin Island, there's Lake Manitou, the largest lake on a freshwater island. And inside that lake, there are islands. It's recursion, terrain inside terrain inside terrain. And the reason it hits so hard visually is because it feels like a glitch. Like the world forgot to stop generating landforms. Zoom out, zoom in. Zoom in again. Now go green and go big. Canada's boreal forest stretches across the country, one of the largest intact forest systems on Earth. From above it becomes a pattern, dark conifers, flashing lakes, ribbon rivers. And if you fly for hours, it barely changes. This is why Canadian wilderness feels different. Not a forest, a continent of forest. A place that can swallow roads, swallow distance, swallow sound. Mid-video reset. Rescale your brain. Canada touches the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Arctic. That single fact explains why the terrain palette is so wide and why you can cut from storm coastlines to temperate rainforest to polar desert without leaving one nation. Three oceans means three different systems shaping the land. Different currents, different storms, different ice, different erosion. Same country, different worlds. Now the terrain starts making rules. In parts of northern Canada, winter creates roads, temporary routes across frozen lakes and rivers. When the ice gets thick enough, the network appears. Trucks move, supplies move, people move. And then spring arrives and the entire system vanishes. This is pure terrain logic. Travel is not a choice, it's a condition. Headlights on black ice, a frozen horizon. And underneath, ice that creaks and groans like it's alive. Now hit the map from orbit fact. In Quebec, the Manicouagan Reservoir forms a near-perfect ring, often nicknamed the Eye of Quebec. And that shape comes from violence on a planetary scale, an ancient asteroid impact, still legible from orbit. This is one of those moments where geology stops feeling slow, because the land remembers impact, and sometimes it remembers it in shapes so clean they look designed. Most people don't connect Canada with volcanoes, but parts of British Columbia sit in the wider Pacific Ring of Fire region, and Canada has young volcanic terrain. Seax Cone erupted roughly a few centuries ago, sending lava through the Nass Valley. And this part matters. It wasn't just cool lava. It had human consequences, devastating impacts for the Nisga'a people. So you don't treat it like spectacle, you treat it like what it is, terrain with a cost. Black lava fields against green forest, heat written into stone. To close, go far north, where Canada stops feeling like Earth. Devon Island in the Arctic archipelago is often cited as the largest uninhabited island on the planet. No permanent population. Polar desert. Ice caps. Valleys that only run with meltwater during a short Arctic summer. And because the terrain is so barren, so Mars-like, NASA has used it as a testing ground for equipment and procedures. So your final image isn't a skyline. It's raw land, cold and empty enough to be used as another world. And that's just one version of Canada. Because we didn't even touch the mountains. If you had to pick one Canadian terrain zone for a full episode, where are you going? The coasts, the Shield, the mountains, or the Arctic? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more terrain that feels unreal, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.